Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. For some reason, this thing just started recording, so I was like, okay, I'll go with it. So it must be set up for gestures. The name of this channel is Manifesting Magic, the practical way. And because we know there's a lot of practical things that need to be in place so that the magic can flow in our lives, right? What I'm discussing today is related to people and your personal alignment, right? It's so important in life that we remember to focus on being aligned as opposed to focusing on people. Um, in many situations, because we are social human beings, we deal with people quite often. Man, I was just thinking about a burden I was carrying so heavy a while ago, like maybe just a month ago, and it kind of went away. And I'm thinking, like, when you're going through those troubles or you have a burden or something or a mental something weighing you down, you feel like it's never going to go away. But I'm just like, God, I feel light as a feather, like for a while now. And so you have to know that a brighter day is coming. Just keep that in mind. Back to the alignment. um, when you're working on anything or going anywhere or doing anything involving other people, there's always going to be some type of a friction or some type of um, um, sharpening. I'll say sharpening of each other or sharpening of other people and environments or something, because your personalities are trying to mesh on some level, right? And sometimes it's successful and sometimes it's not. But something that I've noticed that I really have to pay attention to is if you're caught up in your mind and you start focusing too much of your time and attention on the other people or what you think another person is doing or what you think somebody may be doing or saying. And I'm assuming this is I know this, I'm not assuming. I was married before, but I know this is very, very common, especially in marriage relationships and domestic partnerships. And workplace environments where you work really closely with people. I've always been on really small teams. But there's something to remember that I'm going to always keep with me is the idea that I need to focus on my alignment as opposed to focusing on other people's personality traits. Because it's so common for us to sit around and, sorry, somebody's out there blowing the horn. Oh, actually, you know what's so funny? I live near a stop sign and like almost nobody stops at this stop sign. It's a three-way. And I just sit there and watch all day sometimes from my balcony. And I'm just like, God, I really wish I could go down there and force these people to stop. And what you hear all day is a bunch of horns blowing. Then I remember, stay in alignment. Stop focusing on the people. Because when you're in alignment, it really doesn't matter what people do. It doesn't matter if if they do something disappointing, if they do something that is negative, or they do something that you don't mesh with, or whatever it is, or you're in an environment where people just rubbing you the wrong way. Sometimes that happens too, right? We've been places where we just couldn't put our finger on it, but you're just like, I don't know, these people, they're not sitting well with me. I'm not feeling this environment, and so that happens. The most important thing to remember is that when you start bringing your attention to the individuals, you're taking it away from the bigger picture. So there's like a macro view and then there's a micro view of everything, right? The micro view being the individual, the macro view being the big picture, right? So when you get caught up in the micro view, you're not able to see the big picture because you're too far down in the muck of things, worrying about this behavior, that, that. How can you create and how can you be in a mode where you can advance and expand yourself when all you can do is think about what another person is doing right or doing wrong, right? But when you look at the big picture of it all, oh, this is good for driving. I can honestly say this is something that's good for driving. If you get annoyed every time somebody does something wrong on the road, and believe me, I'm one of those people that's not annoyed every time, but I'm like, hey, there's rules out here. You're breaking them. I'm like, we have these little rules so that we can all do this group project of driving around a city together and we can try not to kill each other. But when you get caught up in the muck of what somebody did, or they cut you off right in front of you, or you were about to turn into a parking spot and they turned in before you or whatever, you forget the really big picture. So you forget the big picture of how complicated it is to have so many people on the road with so many different perspectives and so many different ideas about how driving should go. And then so many different motivations. Some are playing with phones. Some are putting on makeup. Some are eating. Some just heard that somebody died in their family. There's so many things that are happening on the road. If you can look at that big picture, then you can just focus on, well, just let me be in alignment so that I'm the best defensive driver that I can be. and let me not put in an unnecessary and unviable expectation on other people when I'm only catching them for like 2 or 3 seconds in their lives, right? And you're going to get all upset because of this person that passed you on a car or whatever for 2 or 3 seconds, 5 seconds in your life, right? You're losing sight of the bigger picture. And when you're in very close relationships, you can do this a lot too, because it's so easy to see what we call faults or things like that in other people, maybe not so much in ourselves. And we can easily just start picking those things apart and start looking at them all the time and start saying, man, I really don't like this thing. This person doesn't even know they do this thing, but I just don't like that behavior. Ugh. And we can get real caught up in that. And the thing about it is, we're really just setting ourselves up for judgment and for aggravation from on some other end of our lives, when really we should be spending more time focusing on how can I get in alignment? How can I get my mind right? How can I get my energy in the places that it's supposed to be so that I can be on the right frequency, so I don't even see this behavior. And when I do see it, it won't even affect me, right? That's how you want to get with things. And we can see this in so many environments when you are like dealing with children or dealing with a mate or something like that. And like something is done or said or whatever. And it's like, you can't even be moved. It's like, yeah, I want to be bothered by it, but I'm feeling too aligned today. I'm just not interested in getting, and okay. And if you have a teenage daughter or something like that, that's very, and they're always trying to get at you with a little bit of picking. Like you say something and they correct it, and I used to do the same thing. I'm like, girl, I'm not that old. I remember doing this to my mama. You ain't gonna get me. And it doesn't even work because I put myself so much in alignment before I deal with people on a daily basis that it's very hard for me to get into interactions where I completely lose my head, because I'm walking in already thinking I'm not going to pay attention to the people. I'm going to pay attention to staying in alignment, because as long as I'm in alignment, then everything is flowing in my life and my space. And if there's some behavior or some ideas or something that's not on my frequency, I'm not going to even see it, because I am in the perfect place for me to grow, develop, and to be and to expand. And that's what's most important, right? Because picking apart people's behaviors, that's not going to make anybody any happier. It doesn't create any positivity. It actually starts making you build a list of aggravations toward a person, and you start putting them, oh yeah, they do this too. Oh yeah. And you start doing this sort of thing. I've done that in new positions at work in places like that all the time. It's like, oh yeah. And then they did this and then they did that. Now you're making this little list and you're just like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? Focus on yourself. And it's not even so much as focusing on yourself as it is focusing on alignment, focusing on getting to the place where you're not teetering this way when somebody does something. You're not teetering that way when somebody does something. No matter what people do around you, you're completely unaffected for the most part, right? You are creating your own energy. You're creating your own happiness. You're creating your own space, and other people will follow suit. Because if you're not in a bad mood, you don't have an attitude, nobody can say that. But sometimes you may have to pause to get in alignment, because you're like, hey, wait, I'm going to approach this the wrong way. So let me just wait until I balance my life out, and then we can have this conversation again. And I've done that even too with my partner. I'm just like, let's table this until I'm working on something else, because I'm not doing anything right now. And I'm thinking my attention is too focused on that because I'm not busy enough working on something to take me to the next, in the next challenge or the next level or whatever it is I'm trying to create. So just keep that in mind, right? Always try to make sure you are focusing on alignment and you're not focused on the people. Oh, you know what? I have one of those smiles, that little eyes that go down. I just kind of noticed that one of my daughters smile like that when she smiles. I'm always like, hello, eyes droop. Kind of like Britney Spears' eyes. They kind of droop down. And I just noticed way more just now. But I do smile a lot. This is displaying these smile lines here. I have no problem with having smile lines because, well, anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And remember, focus on alignment. Don't focus on people. Enjoy your week. Bye.